It's the dumbest reason you've got to court for. I spent 2 years in court for only $2. I was walking home after staying at work really late. Walking through the bar scene, I saw a cab and was so tired I decided to take it home, the first time I'd ever decided to do so. Short, aggressive ride where he's tailgating, honking, swearing, and aggro as F despite it being a sleepy city. Fare, $6.40. I give him $20 and ask for $12 back. Cabbie gives me $10 from a giant wad of money and says sorry, he doesn't have any ones. Okay, dude thinks I'm intoxicated because he picked me up outside of a bar, and he thinks he deserves a better tip even though the ride was like 3 minutes. I say, what do you mean you don't have any ones? You're a cabbie, and I just saw your giant wad of cash. He persists. I say no, you're driving me down the street to that pizza shop and we're getting change. He says he won't. When I ask, he refuses to give me his name, and then gives me a menacing get the F out of my cab, looking like he's going to punch me in the face. Dude's definitely a tough guy and pretty scary, think short, stocky henchman type with buzzed silver hair and a leather jacket, so I leave, but not before catching his cab number as he speeds off. Okay, it's the principle of the matter. This guy's doing this to intoxicated kids all night, and probably making a lot of money by intimidating and victimizing these customers of a public service. F that. I call the cab company and get my full $10 back, but it takes a bunch of harassment and several months to finally get it. F that. I call the cab company's director, who couldn't care less and who flat out told me he believed the cabbie's story over mine, so not only is this poop happening, but it's being enabled and the complaints aren't being registered. F that especially. I tell him that if he doesn't take any course of action whatsoever then I'd be forced to take it up with the city's Transportation Oversight Commission that oversees all this stuff. He basically dares me to do so. Okay, so I enter into this ridiculously arduous process, where after reading up on the local laws I write a major complaint to the Public Commission and request they be fined under certain articles. A couple months later I get a response letter. Cab company hires this sleazy ass lawyer who claims I'm lying about everything and had all this malicious intent. Claims I demanded ones, and the cabbie didn't immediately procure them but then did seconds later, and at that point I was so fuming mad that I wanted to exact revenge. Calls my character and credibility into question completely. The letter was so amateur and there were so many transparent lies in it that it was both laughable and sad. So I go to my preliminary hearing, which I took to mean was just like filling out paperwork, or at most a private deposition or something. Nope, everyone's there, including the cabbie, the bedraggled secretary who sent my refund, the cab company's director, the sleazy lawyer, a court reporter, and a judge. Ridiculous cheap suits all around for the cab entourage. The in-person sleaziness of the lawyer did not disappoint. Think bad pinstripe suit and pink tie, slicked back hair, and pencil mustache, all resting on a sweaty and anxious fat man whose only apparent mode in trial is a combination of snideness and faux suspicion. The cabbie's giving me threatening looks during the whole thing, and I'm frankly a little scared he's going to kick my ass afterward. As a bonus, the judge is relatively young, extremely polite, thoughtful, level-headed, and patient. We give our stories. Cabbie gives this really terribly acted story of how I intimidated him into getting more ones, become furious, etc., but he can't even keep his facts together and keeps stumbling over his obviously rehearsed lines. Sleazy lawyer tries to poke holes in my very simple and coherent story like it's a Hardy Boys novel. It was dark, you couldn't have seen the denominations of his money. It's the cheesiest effing thing you've ever seen. Meanwhile I'm trying to cross-examine him, while basically learning on the job how to be a hack lawyer at a SH to municipal hearing, and I even take a few jabs at the cabbie for lying on the stand that were met with various objections. You could cut the tension between me and this cabbie with a knife, and I made a lot of awkward mistakes because of that, but overall it went pretty well. A funny mistake I remember is that the lawyer made some objection, and I butted in and said that's not even a good point, and the judge cracked a smile in agreement and then told me I could not be subjective during the hearing. Judge makes a ruling a few months later, noting that the cabbie was clearly not credible, and orders cab company to pay a $1,500 civil penalty to the city for various infractions, fraud, not providing reasonable service, and not identifying himself, if I recall. Sweet, I think. But then, months later, lawyer issues an exception to this ruling, which I didn't know could occur, at around 9 p.m. the night it's due. The exception brings up all these reasons that they shouldn't be fined. For example, there was precedent for this fine before, and also attacks my credibility once again regarding details of the story, basically threatening to undo the ruling if I didn't respond. I get notice of this filing via email and frantically write up an official response to exceptions, which was required to address these issues, and I submit it just under midnight. Months later, I think a total of 1.5 years since the incident after several filings and correspondences, judge examines the new material and rules that the $1,500 fine stands. Got any ones now, a-hole?